My name is Coriell. I'm the Information Literacy Librarian over at the Warner Library. Today, we're going to be talking about some AI tools you can actually use in your academic career. So we're going to start off by defining our terms. What is AI? I pulled these two quotes from the MIT Technology Review and now IBM. Basically, AI is a catch-all term for a bunch of groups, a bunch of technologies that stimulate or simulate human thinking, quote unquote. So these can do a lot of things like driving cars, creating sentences, answering questions, so on and so forth. Sometimes AI can be used for just automation, but sometimes it can be used to create new things. That's typically called generative AI. So some examples of that might be ChatGPT, DALL-E, or Midjourney, if you've taken a look at those before. Typically, generative AI is frowned upon for a variety of reasons. For example, not a lot of companies are very forthcoming with where they get the information they use to train their programs. And because of that, there are a lot of potential legality and copyright issues. I'm here with my colleagues, Ruby and Chelsea. If I took Ruby and Chelsea's writing and I used it to train an AI, wouldn't they deserve some compensation for providing that material to me? And isn't that, maybe illegal for me to do without telling them? Eastern has a whole policy on AI and AI use. Our process is that we want to facilitate critical thinking. If you are getting your answers from ChatGPT, you're not engaging in critical thinking, probably. You can absolutely use AI to help you, for example, coming up with potential thesis statements and so on and so forth. But you are typically not going to want to use AI in class unless your or generative AI specifically, unless your professor tells you go ahead and do that. We also acknowledge that AI is a tool. Nothing's either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Use this tool responsibly. I'm going to go over quite a few different tools today. Some of them may have generative capabilities, but we're not going to talk about those. We're not steering into those waters because Eastern frowns on generative AI. So we're going to start off with Grammarly. You've probably heard of this little plugin before. I know I put it in during my graduate career because I can't spell definitely correctly, and Grammarly helped me get that. Something else Grammarly helped me do was tone checking. Sometimes I write emails and I just sound so nice and pleading when I need to sound a little more authoritative. Grammarly helps with that. So they do a lot of different things. I talked about tone checking and proofreading. They do have generative capabilities where they can create drafts or write replies, but primarily you are going to want to use it to, to give yourself some spell checking. Use it as a thesaurus, proofread it. Don't do the generative stuff. I've started off with Grammarly because Eastern specifically mentions it in their AI policy. You can use Grammarly. You're just going to want to turn off the generative features, and you can do that through customization. But I'm going to go back one just to show you. This is a little example of what Grammarly looks like. We have a little bit of their correctness, spelling. Here's how the text sounds. They lay it out for you. They make it pretty easy to make things legible. So I've broken everything down to pros and cons. I think Grammarly is helpful and that's customizable. Some people may find Grammarly annoying. My colleague Chelsea Post is currently raising her hand. I know none of you can see, but I want that to be recorded in perpetuity. Chelsea, please don't edit that out. So Chelsea, can you actually tell us what you find annoying about Grammarly?
Honestly, it's very superficial. I just don't like the pop-up.
Okay.
It's just there and it's in my face and it's constantly trying to tell me to do something when I meant to do the thing that I wanted to do. Maybe there's just something deep inside me that doesn't like a machine telling me what to do. So I don't know. It's a very personal reason.
Okay. Well, the good news is a lot of these don't function as browser add-ons, so you won't have anyone offering you any unsolicited opinions with the rest of these. All right, so our next one is Quillbot. I learned about Quillbot through a little seminar with some other librarians, and I thought it was kind of neat. So Quillbot has a lot of different tools. For the purpose of this, we're primarily going to be talking about the paraphraser and the summarizer. I think having a citation generator is fantastic, but you probably have to pay for that, and we'll talk about that in a second. So to demonstrate these terms, I went in with a specific article. It was the impact of library instruction on student writing at a 2-year college level. this is their paraphrase feature. I plugged in a section of that, and on the other side of paraphrase is that to something that's a little more easy for me to understand. This is great for our students who are learning English as a second language or who have found an article that's really just full of jargon, and you got to make it a little simpler. So this is a free feature if I'm just using standard. If I wanted to change it to academic or creative, I would have to pay for that. But this is pretty decent for summarization purposes. We also have paraphrasing. I took another passage from that same article and they shortened it down for me a little bit. You can see in the blue, they highlighted what they thought were the big ideas, and that comes up over here. So what are the pros and cons? On the pro side, it does give us some decent summaries and paraphrases. The cons are that it only allows a limited amount of text. So I would have to go paragraph by paragraph if I had a really challenging article. And that amount of text that it allows is not consistent across the board. The amount I could put in for paraphrasing and summarization were two different numbers. Additionally, a lot of those tools were behind a paywall, and I don't imagine anyone else wants to pay for this. But you know what? The good news is Quillbot is not the only one in the summarization game. Our next resource is Charlie. It's an AI summarizer. You actually have to go to them and you drop your file in there. So this is what happened when I dropped in that article we just saw. It gives me a little summarization up there, and it gives me some example questions I can ask to learn more about the article. And then it answers them. So that's kind of neat. I could also type in my own questions if I had them, but I just used the ones they provided. So I think this does a much better job summarizing the entire article and allowing you to ask questions to kind of think about how does this connect with the larger topic at hand. However, it's only going to let you do one article every 24 hours. So unless you're fantastic with time management, you might have to upgrade to the paid version. And you probably don't want to do that. So our next one is Research Rabbit. This is another one I learned about from the TCLC summer camp. One of our colleagues in the library recently came back and presented on this, so it's gaining ground. So here's my little example. I started off by plugging in this Dear David, Affect and Belief in Twitter Horror as my starting article. And then from there, it's showing me some similar articles. Up here, I can filter by relevance and like date and whatnot. And here's a little map of what they found. So here's that, the article I found on there, and these are somewhat connected. And I can kind of go in here, I can grab stuff I think is interesting. Like one of those articles, they may have a PDF linked to it, and you can go deeper and deeper and deeper into the little research hole. However, yep, and we can see that here, like this is the article I found that I liked, and it goes on even more there. I can download the PDF, I can read the little abstract there, and I can just keep going further. I found about 3 articles I thought were relevant to that research question I had. So the nice part is Research Rabbit might show you some stuff you might not have otherwise seen. It eliminates a lot of the trouble with coming up with keywords and whatnot for your search. However, you got to go in there with something that you like. You can't remove irrelevant articles. So the article I started off with was about a horror story on Twitter. I specifically want to talk about internet culture and scary stories. So I can't get rid of things that are just about like Twitter and emotion. I'm also limited to the articles they've uploaded. It's not connected to Eastern in any meaningful way. It's really just what they have, and that it might be a little limited depending on what your research is. I also think the formatting wasn't super intuitive. It wasn't until one of my colleagues came back from her conference and showed me like, oh, look, you can actually change the date, like so you can get the newest stuff first, that I knew that was an option. I could not figure that out myself. Someone had to show me that, and that was a little embarrassing. But there is another alternative to Research Rabbit, in my opinion. It's called Semantic Scholar. Like Research Rabbit, you do have to approach Semantic Scholar with an article in mind. For the purpose of this demonstration, I chose The Power of Hawaii. It's from 2012. So I typically would not recommend using this in a paper because it's older than 5 years. However, I could go into highly influential citations there. I could see if there's any more new work on like looking at cute things helps you focus better. like what's nice here is that it gives me a nice little TLDR of what the whole article is about in case it's been a hot minute since I actually read this. But I went over there to the highly influential citations, and these are some of the things I found. The one that I thought was most relevant was the therapeutic power of Qt, the effects of media on subforms, and individual differentiations of media and prescriptions. This is from 2024, so I could definitely use it. And as we scroll through here, a lot of these are newer. Like Research Rabbit, this might show you some stuff you would not have otherwise found. And it does allow you to filter. I thought the filtering was a lot more intuitive this way around. It allows me to show the most influential things, like what's the most cited, how recent is it, and can I just instantly get that PDF? However, I can't really remove irrelevant articles. I have to do a little work to kind of specify, like, it's all about cute things helping you focus. And I can't really specify that to the program. I have used this before when I was trying to help a student, but it would require some time to get to train the algorithm to find what you like. It is a good option, but it's not without its points that you need to tweak a bit. So that's all we have for you today. Thank you guys for being such a great audience.